Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, "I'd love to start that project, but I just don't have the time," or "I'd apply for that role, but I'm not qualified enough," or "I'll focus on my health right after this busy season ends," only to realize months later that the busy season never ended, the right time never came, and the dream is still sitting in the same dusty corner of your mind? I have. For years, I didn't see these as excuses. I saw them as facts, reasonable, logical, even responsible. I prided myself on being realistic. But then I started noticing a pattern. Every time I used one of these phrases, I felt a tiny flicker of relief, followed by a heavier weight of regret. That's when it hit me. My excuses weren't protecting me, they were imprisoning me. And the worst part? They sounded so much like my own voice, I never questioned them. Welcome. I'm really glad you're here. This isn't a space for shame or judgment. It's a conversation for those of us who are tired of being our own biggest obstacle and ready to learn the subtle language of our inner saboteur. If that's you, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to Elevate Your Daily. It's how we stay connected as we gently dismantle the stories that keep us small. Today, I want to share what I've learned, not from a book, but from years of listening closely to my own internal dialogue about how our excuses lie to us with stunning sophistication. They don't shout, they whisper. They don't demand, they rationalize. And because they wear the mask of wisdom, we obey them without question. But here's the good news. Once you learn to recognize the voice, you can choose not to follow it. To help me spot my own self-sabotage in real time, I started asking myself 5 questions that cut through the clever disguises and expose the truth underneath. These aren't abstract, they're practical, personal, and born from real moments of doubt, delay, and eventual clarity. The 5 questions are: what reasonable story am I telling myself that's actually just fear in a business suit? If I truly believed I could handle the outcome, what would I do today that I'm currently avoiding? Where have I turned a temporary feeling, like I'm tired, into a permanent identity, like I'm not a morning person? What would I attempt if I stopped using my past as a ceiling for my future? And who benefits when I choose comfort over courage? And is it really me? Let me walk you through how each of these questions helped me stop negotiating with my own potential and start acting like someone who believes in it. First, what reasonable story am I telling myself that's actually just fear in a business suit? This question changed everything. For the longest time, I thought my caution was wisdom. I'd say things like, "I should wait until I have a bigger audience before launching," or "I need to study this more before I share my opinion." It sounded mature, responsible, strategic. But when I asked this question honestly, I saw the truth. I was using logic to dress up fear. Fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of being seen and judged. The story sounded reasonable, but it was serving only one purpose: keeping me safe in the shallow end of my own life. So I started testing it. I'd catch myself saying, "I'm not ready," and I'd ask, "Is this really about preparation or is it about protection?" One day, I was about to cancel a workshop I'd planned because not enough people signed up. The responsible thing, I told myself. But then I asked this question, and the answer was clear. I was afraid of standing in front of a small room and feeling like a failure. So I ran it anyway. Only 3 people came, and it was one of the most connected, powerful sessions I'd ever led. One attendee later told me it changed her entire approach to her work. My reasonable excuse would have robbed us both of that moment. I realized that fear doesn't always come as panic. Sometimes it comes as prudence, and that's when it's most dangerous, because we welcome it in like a trusted advisor, not the gatekeeper it really is. Second, if I truly believed I could handle the outcome, what would I do today that I'm currently avoiding? This is my go-to question when I'm stuck in analysis paralysis. I used to believe that confidence came before action, that I needed to feel sure before I could move. But I've since learned the opposite is true. Confidence is built through evidence, and evidence only comes from action. So now, when I'm hesitating, I don't ask, "Am I ready?" I ask, "If I knew I could handle whatever happens, rejection, awkwardness, even failure, what would I do?" The answer is always the same. I'd send the email, I'd pitch the idea, I'd share the vulnerable post.
Last month, I was holding back from applying to speak at a conference. My inner voice said, "You're not a big enough name." But when I asked this question, I realized even if I got rejected, I'd survive. Even if I bombed on stage, I'd learn. So I applied. I didn't get in, but the act of applying, of choosing courage over comfort, gave me more confidence than 100 hours of preparing ever could. I now see that most of my delays weren't about lack of skill. They were about lack of trust in myself, in my resilience, in my ability to handle the unknown. And that trust isn't given, it's earned, one brave choice at a time. Third, where have I turned a temporary feeling like I'm tired into a permanent identity, like I'm not a morning person? This one was subtle but devastating. I used to say, I'm just not a morning person, as if it were a genetic fact, like having brown eyes. So I never tried to write early. I never scheduled important work before noon. I built my whole life around avoiding the morning. But then I noticed something. On vacation, I'd wake up at sunrise, energized, journaling on the porch. No alarm, no struggle. So why was I not a morning person at home? Because I'd turned a habit into an identity. I'd done this everywhere. I'm bad with money, instead of, I haven't learned budgeting yet. I'm shy, instead of, I'm out of practice with speaking up. I'm disorganized, instead of, I haven't found a system that works for me. These labels felt like truth, but they were actually self-fulfilling prophecies. By calling myself bad with money, I gave myself permission not to learn. By calling myself shy, I avoided situations where I could grow. So I started reframing. Instead of I am, I said I'm learning to, or I'm practicing to. That tiny shift opened a door because a feeling is temporary, and identity is a prison, and I was ready to walk out. Fourth, what would I attempt if I stopped using my past as a ceiling for my future? I used to let my history dictate my horizon. One failed business equals I'm not cut out for entrepreneurship. One awkward presentation equals I should stick to writing. One financial mistake equals I'll never be good with money. I treated my past like a fixed sculpture, unchangeable, defining. But then I asked this question and everything shifted. If I stopped letting yesterday decide tomorrow, what would I try? The answer was immediate. I'd launch a paid program. I'd speak publicly. I'd invest in my own growth. So I did, not because I suddenly felt qualified, but because I refused to let a 5-year-old failure steal my future. I realized that your past is data, not destiny. It can inform you, but it doesn't have to limit you. The person you were yesterday doesn't get to vote on who you become tomorrow. And fifth, who benefits when I choose comfort over courage? And is it really me? This question cut through my self-deception like a knife. I used to think I was being kind to myself by avoiding hard things, taking the easy path, staying quiet. But when I asked this question, the answer was startling. No one benefits, not even me. Choosing comfort didn't bring me peace. It brought me regret. It didn't protect me. It postponed my growth. It didn't make me safer. It made me smaller. The only thing that truly benefited was my fear, and fear is a terrible life partner. So I started asking, who am I really serving with this choice? If the answer wasn't my future self, I knew I was being led by the wrong voice. Now, when I feel the pull of an excuse, I pause and ask, is this love or is this fear? Because love expands, fear contracts. Love builds, fear hides. And I'm done waiting. Your turn, one simple step. If you're ready to stop negotiating with your own potential, here's one grounded step you can take this week. Catch one of your favorite excuses in real time and reframe it. When you hear yourself say, I don't have time, ask, what am I choosing to prioritize instead? When you say, I'm not ready, ask, what's the smallest version of this I could try today? When you say, that's just who I am, ask, or is that just who I've been? Don't fight the excuse, question it. Don't believe the story, rewrite it. Because your excuses are clever, but you are wiser. I'm not sharing this because I've silenced my inner saboteur forever. I still hear the whispers, but now I recognize them for what they are, echoes of old fears dressed up as wisdom. And if you're in that same space, learning to distinguish your protective voice from your limiting one, I'm so glad you're here. This journey isn't about becoming fearless, it's about becoming fluent in the language of your own truth. So if